Hello and welcome to Phoenix Cinema Podcast. I am Chris Austin.
And I am Luke Parker.
And this is a podcast where we discuss what's showing at the Phoenix Cinema in North London. And this week we are discussing Robert Eggers' new film, Nosferatu, a remake of the 1922 silent film. I'm sounding less like Nosferatu now, more like Nandor from What We Do in the
I think that was a pretty good effort, not going to lie.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you. So it's, Nosferatu, a remake of the 1922 silent film by the same name, which itself was an adaptation of Bram Stoker's Dracula, which makes this...
Unofficially.
Unofficially.
Yeah, I actually watched the original Nosferatu last night in preparation for today.
Nice. I haven't seen it in years. Actually, it was the first film ever chosen in Film Club.
Was that with Shadow of the Vampire?
With Shadow of the Vampire, yeah.
Cool,
which Willem Dafoe plays Nosferatu.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, you hear so much about the original Nosferatu, and, essentially wrote the template for the horror genre. You know, and I feel like today we're going to, obviously end up talking about the original as well, having both of us seen it, and it's hard to then not make the comparison with this film.
I guess so. I mean, I don't really remember too much, to be honest, but what I do remember actually maybe feeling kind of underwhelmed, but considering it was 1922, apparently it was that was so terrifying that it was banned, I think, in certain places.
We're just so desensitized these days that it's just never going to have any effect. I mean, because I thought the exact same. It's definitely a fascinating piece of film history, but it was a bit of a slog.
Yes, I couldn't agree more with that. I
also I was spent quite a while looking for a good version of the original, or what was intended to be the original soundtrack. Because there's been a lot of redoings over the years of people rescoring or people adding effects to the visuals, different color scalings.
I didn't realize that.
I kind of gave up in the end and just found a decent quality one on YouTube. But
yeah, I don't remember which one I watched at the time. We're going back 4 or 5 years. I can't remember how I found it, where I found it, but I mean it's because it's just score, right? Basically.
Yeah.
I
mean, so there's a version on Amazon Prime that I started watching, and then within about 30 seconds, the music was it felt really modern, and it was almost like this choir with these really quite dramatic strings, and I was like, this really doesn't sound right. And then I was doing some research, and I was like, obviously this isn't what it was actually meant to be. So I found this version on YouTube that had this score, which was really heavy with the organ and piano, and I thought this seems a bit more what it's supposed to be,
closer to what it should. 1922 scoring,
exactly.
Yeah. Well, I've got to ask you, so you went to see this in the cinema, obviously.
Definitely the best way to see it.
100%.
Yeah.
And did this happen? So did the house lights remain on at the beginning of the movie?
No.
Okay.
I think your cinema just fucked up.
Quite possibly so, yeah. So what had happened, the movie began, but the house lights remained on.
Okay.
And it's obviously a very dark film, so immediately I turned to Carrie Ann and was like, oh, they fucked up.
Yeah.
And this guy I was sitting next to immediately stood up and left, and I thought, good for you. He came back so quickly, and he sat down, and as soon as Nosferatu speaks his dialogue, the lights dimmed. And I thought, oh, hang on a minute. Is this actually part of the presentation of the film?
Well,
so
you're making me doubt myself now, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't. But
yeah, no, probably, surely not. You would know.
I've had
you would
that
have been
before as well, where they haven't turned the house lights off, and we're a few minutes into the film, and everyone's looking around at each other. Who's going to be the one to get up and go complain?
Yeah. Okay. And that didn't happen with you. So I guess, that was the cinema. All right. Well, what are your thoughts, man? What do you think of this movie? Oh, do you have a little synopsis?
Yeah, man, I can do a little synopsis that I've written down.
Let's go for it.
Cool. So based on F.W. Murnau's 1922 German expressionist vampire film Nosferatu, A Symphony of Horror, Robert Eggers' latest venture into his trademark of period horror provides a tense and visually dramatic retelling of a story famous for essentially writing its own genre's template. Set in 1838 in the fictional German town of Viborg, Nosferatu is the ill-fated story of newlyweds Ellen and Thomas Hutter, played by Lily Rose Depp and Nicholas Hoult. To help financially secure their future, Thomas accepts a commission to sell a local decaying and ruined property to the reclusive Count Orlok in Transylvania. Despite Ellen's disturbing dreams and pleas for Thomas to stay, he leaves her in the care of their friends Friedrich and Anna Harding. In Transylvania, Thomas encounters Orlok, a strange and malevolent figure who, after signing the property deal, attacks Thomas, feeds on his blood, and traps him within the castle. After Thomas escapes, he rushes home to Ellen. Meanwhile, Orlok sails to Viborg, bringing the plague and death with him. As the town suffers, Ellen's ill condition worsens, and her doctor consults an occult expert, von Franz, played by Willem Dafoe, who identifies Orlok as the Nosferatu, a vampire with the power to bring death and destruction. I will say that is a very oversimplified version of what went on. It was quite hard to kind of... There's a lot to unpack, and it was quite hard to condense into like a few hundred words. But
well, you did it, and you did it very well. Thank you for that, Luke. I appreciate it.
I mean, that's probably like what. So what I'll say about the film straight away that I really liked, especially now having watched the original Nosferatu, is that Robert Eggers takes some creative liberties and adds to the story in, I think, the best possible way. He really fleshes it out. He really fleshes the characters out. And he adds elements to the story that I didn't really touch on there, that really enhance it and make it a lot more character driven than whatever was going on in the original one.
Sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I can see that. And even, again, it's going to be hard for me to compare the two because I don't have that much of a memory of it. Yeah. But I definitely know he fleshes this out a lot more.
Yeah.
What were your overall thoughts on this?
I really liked it. You know, like I said, it's very much Robert Eggers doing Robert Eggers.
Yeah.
And I think we have conflicting opinions on Robert Eggers. I really like...
I think so.
I really like... Well, I haven't actually seen The Northman, but The Witch and The Lighthouse I both really liked. So I was really excited to see this, and I'm a big horror film fan as well. So this is pretty perfect for me. Obviously, the best thing about this film is how dramatic it is visually. I mean, this is so finely... Every shot is so finely orchestrated, and there's some shots in this film that are just really powerful and like provoke like dread and tension. My favorite shot in the entire film is one where it's actually from the trailer as well, and it's of the shadow of a hand going over the city, and it's
so good.
It's so cool. Even the very opening shots and the way he plays with the shadow of Count Orlok in the darkness and in the moonlight, it's really, really clever. And again, after watching the original Nosferatu, there's a lot of elements of like using shadows in that film. Like one of the most famous shots from the original film is of Nosferatu's shadow like going up the stairs, and it's really nice, I think, how Robert Eggers has like embraced that and like taken it to the next level. So yeah, visually absolutely stunning. What about you? What do you think about that?
On first thoughts, exactly that.
Yeah,
I couldn't agree more. It's just visually so stunning. It's incredible filmmaking, the production design, the costumes. The design of Nosferatu himself is great. And the film has such an incredible mastery of tone. It's so bleak and it's so relentless. And while I was watching it, and I watched this on New Year's Day, I was thinking, this feels like a modern day horror masterpiece. Like, as you watch it, it already feels like a classic.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
So really, I mean, just just really enjoyed it. Yeah, it's just visually, the level of craft is just fantastic. And then the performances are, in particular, it's Depp and it's Skarsgård who steal the film.
Yeah.
I mean, and Depp, who probably...
Well, I was just going to say, like, Nicholas Hoult is I think he's really good as well. I mean, I think he's a really great actor who's really like coming up into the limelight the last few years.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Even more than he already was. So, yeah, but I totally agree. Lily Rose Depp was amazing.
She has the harder job. I mean, she has the hardest job maybe in the film. It's such a physical performance, and she does it really well. I mean, it's physical and it's emotional. And yeah, she handles it really, really well. There's a lot asked of her.
Yeah, and this might seem like a really weird comparison to make, but who's the actress from the film Possession? Is Isabella something? Isabella Angelini or something like that?
Isabella Gianni.
Oh, Gianni, yeah.
Gianni, yes.
When I was watching Lily Rose Depp, I actually thought about her performance and just like, they are giving 110% in this.
Dude, what a comparison. Honestly, yes, I didn't even think of that. But that is such a great comparison to make. Because it's equally, they are both as emotionally committed as can be. And they're very big performances.
Very physical,
and yet so physical, but so grounded in this emotional like vulnerability. Yeah.
I mean, Lily Rose Depp never gets to the point as in Possession, you know, the subway scene, but...
Did I get that far?
Okay.
I don't know. I don't think so.
Oh, okay. Basically, there's just a scene with from Possession with Isabella Adjani, was it? Yeah, Adjani. Sorry, yeah. Her in a subway, just going batshit crazy, essentially. But yeah, Lily Rose Depp, really, really good in this film. The only person who felt out of place for me was Aaron Taylor-Johnson.
Yep, I'm hearing this a lot.
Yeah.
And I agree.
I mean, I think he was fine. I think it was bad. It's just like he doesn't pull off this old, like, this, it's not quite old English, but you know what I mean? Like this style of performance as well as everyone else did, I think.
I absolutely agree with you, man. I mean, yeah, everyone I've spoken to about the film, and, you know, again, I watched this with my girlfriend, with Carrie Ann. She was the complete opposite of feeling towards this film, which is interesting.
Okay.
But one of the biggest weaknesses of the film was Aaron Taylor-Johnson. I spoke to my friend, our friend Harry, the other day. We were texting about this film, and he said Aaron Taylor-Johnson was the weak link for him. And I kind of felt the same way, because it was... there is something about his performance. And again, like you're saying, Luke, it's not like it's terrible. It's not like it's bad, but it's like a thin line that he just stays the other side of. There are times in his performance where I'm watching his mannerisms and maybe even the way he's delivering his dialogue, and it feels very modern. It feels like there are a lot of modern behaviors within his characterization. And so, yes, there were times I didn't quite buy it. It didn't detract from the movie for me, but I see your point. Yeah.
Maybe it's because obviously the performances are very big and maybe borderline overacting, whereas I feel like he maybe stays very much within his comfort zone compared to everyone else.
Potentially, yeah, and I think that he had a hard job. I mean, him and Emma Corrin's character, it's very difficult because they're kind of on the fringes of things, and they're not quite as central to the story, and they're not asked to deliver these powerhouse performances like everybody else. So, yeah, that's a good point. Maybe it detracts from them in a way because everyone else is so big. I mean, another one of the criticisms like that Carrie Ann had was that she's like, I've seen Willem Dafoe do this before, and it's like, that's fair enough. I mean,
he's so good at it. Like, come on,
so good at it. Yeah. I was like, it's a good point. We have seen him do this before, but yes, he's just so fucking great to watch on screen.
Yeah.
Every time he comes on screen, I'm just like, is he is this the greatest character actor of all time?
I
I've been
wanted more of
really
him, to be
trying to
honest.
assess that.
I wanted more of him out of the film. And if I had to, maybe like the only real issue I had with the film is that the ending is kind of rushed, and I think that's where Willem Dafoe plays the biggest part. Once Count Orlok reaches the city and like wreaks his havoc and everything, it's extremely well done. But just compared to almost like the first few acts of the film, which are, you know, going at a pretty steady pace, everything just happens really quickly. Especially with like the final ending as well, like the very final scene with Nosferatu. It just maybe doesn't tie everything together all that well. And with, you have Willem Dafoe and Nicholas Holt's character, they're kind of like running around looking for Nosferatu, and it just does feel a little bit rushed compared to the rest of the film. But it didn't detract from it massively for me.
Yeah, and I agree with you on this, because I think for me, it's potentially the ending of the movie that stops this from being a great film as opposed to just a very good one.
Yeah.
If we're going to give it star ratings, it does take off like half a star to a star for me, and that it wraps up in a way that is, you go, oh, this is a Dracula movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There was less of a surprise to the end of it for me, especially with what it was all building up to.
Yeah.
Again, we're talking very fine lines here, though. I agree, because it's still of a piece, and it's still very much an Eggers movie, and it plays so well. But yeah, it's
I mean, like, I do understand it, because again, going back to the source work, the ending of the original Nosferatu is even more underwhelming, in a way that literally Nosferatu just goes to Ellen, and then he almost just forgets that it's going to be, it's going to be daylight soon. But at least in this one, it's a bit more of, he's enamored by her and he wants to stay with her and basically suck her blood all night long until it's morning. So it does a better job of the original one. So I kind of, empathize with Robert Eggers, and that like what he was working with wasn't great in the first place.
Yeah, because when I watching this one, I was trying to recollect, how does the original wrap up, and does the sun come out and then they fade him out, basically he just vanishes
essentially? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and like it's so silly, because it's like he is Nosferatu, he's Dracula.
Yeah, you think you'd think that the sun's going to come out in a minute.
Yes, the basic rule applies: do not get touched by the sun. But it makes out that he's basically going down on her all night and forgets that.
Literally.
And I'm like, oh, that's kind of under. I mean, it almost, if it was intentional, then I'd understand it. If he was like, no, I am going to. This is suicide for me. As long as I get the woman I love. Fine, but it never. I never really felt that. But slightly underwhelming though that may be, it's still like the special effects and the cinematography and the lighting.
That final scene with Ellen and Count Orlok on her bed as the sun comes out, and as he dies, it's almost beautiful and disturbing at the same time, the way it's shot.
Definitely, yeah.
But I absolutely loved it, and it kind of made up, I think, for that kind of lackluster plot element of them being there in the first place.
Yeah, and I think the entire journey to that final scene was just so much fun. And what you're speaking of, there are so many highlights from the film, like that, the shadow of his hand stretching over that whole town, and his shadow, a whole tracking shot following his shadow across the walls all the way to the shadow of his hand turning a doorknob. And the whole first encounter with Nicholas Holt's character and that crazy kind of walking down that tree-lined sort of lane, and
it's the carriage
horse
pulls
and
up
carriage.
and the door opens on its own. Yeah.
And it's like he's just being pulled. It's like his feet have left the floor.
Yeah.
That whole thing was just so exceptionally disturbing and creepy and so well made. I mean, it's I can't. The ending can't detract for me.
Yeah.
In that sense. Did you like the score?
Yes. I mean, I can't remember it in too much detail, and I haven't gone back and listened to it. But I remember it. You know, it does what it needs to do and sets the mood and the tone of the film really well.
Yeah. I really enjoyed it. The guy's, the composer's name is Robin Carolan.
I'm pretty sure the score won an award for something.
Did it?
Yeah,
well,
quite recently.
So.
Yeah,
I hope so. Yeah, he. This is only his second film, and his first film was The Northman. Okay. So clearly, he's Eggers' guy. And yeah, going back to what you were saying at the start of the call, Eggers is someone that I kind of bounce off of a lot as a filmmaker. The Witch, I couldn't stand it when I first saw it. Then we rewatched it in Film Club, and I kind of came around to it, of what he was doing. But he definitely has this, there's a lot of self-indulgence, and there's a lot of style, maybe over substance at times. And The Lighthouse just confounds the shit out of me. Like I can't get my head around that. However, The Northman I really enjoyed.
Yeah, I still need to check that out, but yeah.
Maybe because it's so it feels way more conventional than what I expect Eggers to do. And it's the same with this. I really enjoyed this. So I'm kind of coming around on Eggers here. What was interesting as well is sort of researching Nosferatu, I was surprised at how many Nosferatu movies there are. I mean, there are
I know of
loads.
Werner Herzog's one.
And by the way, I want to see that. I want to see that. Yes, that's 1979, and that's him and Klaus Kinski again. Mm-hmm. And obviously, we've been watching their movies in Film Club, Agira, Wrath of God, and Fitzcarraldo. And now I just want to go down this rabbit hole of Herzog and Kinski. Yeah. But there's the Herzog and Kinski version. There was a sequel to that called Vampire in Venice, in which Kinski plays Nosferatu again, but uncredited. Okay. Yeah. And crazily enough as well, there was a remake just called Nosferatu that came out in October, starring Doug Jones. Oh,
I did see this actually, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, how unfortunate is that? It's flown under the radar and been completely buried by timing and this release.
That is super bad timing, yeah.
Honestly, if you're involved in that film, how disheartening must that be?
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's a shame.
Jesus. Oh my God, I can't believe time has passed like this already. Do you have any other thoughts on this before we jump to pairings?
What is Robert Eggers' obsession with the word pray? Pray thee. It does become a little bit forced. It's like he doesn't know how to write in this like Old English fashion. He kind of gets fed up of writing in this Old English fashion, so he just throws in the word pray.
Pray. Oh, I pray thee, tell me, what is your obsession with the word pray? Yeah. Oh, that's great, man.
I mean, it's in all his films, but in this one, I don't know why it just stood out to me. It's got a little bit annoying, not going to lie.
I didn't realize that. I'll have to look out for it. On the rewatch.
But yeah, what about you?
No. I mean, I'm happy to move on to pairings.
All right, cool.
Do you want to go first?
Sure. So I wanted to do something a little different. So I'm a big fan of horror films, especially kind of ones from the 70s and 80s, quite camp horror films, things like slashers, etc. And even though I love these films, I totally understand and appreciate the fact that a lot of them are bad, but they're just really fun. So usually I go into them just expecting to have a good time and not like expect them to actually be good movies, which is because that's what happens most of the time. And recently I went to watch this vampire film, which I was expecting to very much fall into this set of, bad but great and fun, really camp, etc. But I watched it and I was like, damn, this is actually a really, really great horror film.
Okay, I'm curious.
And it is very camp and it's a bit of a teen horror. And I just thought it'd be fun to have these films next to each other because I think it'd be kind of interesting how they almost like juxtapose each other.
Okay.
So I would pair this one with the 1985 film Fright Night.
Fright Night. Okay, I've never seen it.
Mainly because I was taken aback at how good it actually was. It is a vampire flick, and it's a very cheesy vampire flick. But yeah, I just think it would be fun to have these two next to each other, just like almost polar opposites attacking the same thing, basically. Sweet.
Okay. Cool.
Usually I go for like films that are really similar.
Sure.
So I thought it'd be good to go for something that's really different and like have them side by side.
I love that. Yeah, I feel like I recently heard about Fright Night on the Screen Drafts podcast that I listened to, and all these different topics they choose, and I think it was like 80s horror or 80s teen horror, and I it's ringing a bell. I think Fright Night was definitely a film thrown out there. I've never seen it. I think I tried watching the remake.
Yeah, 2011 remake, I think.
That's right. With
Colin Farrell.
Colin Farrell. Yeah. Did you see it?
I haven't seen it, but I've heard bad things.
Yeah. I'm not surprised. Yeah.
But this one from 1985, like I said, really surprised at how good it was.
Excellent. All right. Well, I look forward to putting that on my list. Amazing. Cool. Well, I went for the movie Crimson Peak.
Okay.
Did you ever see this?
I haven't seen it, but it's on the list.
Oh, lovely. Yeah. I have a feeling you'd be a fan of it. It's a Guillermo del Toro movie. From when? God, I can't remember. 2015?
Yeah.
And yeah, the reason I went with it is it was just rattling around in my head watching this movie. It's also a Gothic romance film. It does feature this mansion, this Gothic mansion, and which the characters have to inhabit. Except in Crimson Peak, I think it's very much the mansion is the thing that's alive.
Okay.
It's like a living, breathing thing and is therefore haunting the characters in some way. But aesthetically, it's Del Toro. So as you can imagine, it's so well made. The colors pop, in that sense, very similar to what Eggers is doing here. It looks fantastic. I don't think I enjoyed the movie when I first watched it. In fact, I may have turned it off. But I mean, that's the only thing I could think of was I thought it would be a fun, a more colorful and vibrant pairing to this dark film.
Cool.
Yeah,
Tom Hiddleston, Jessica Chastain. Nice.
Yeah, it's a good cast. It's a good cast, and I think you dig it.
Yeah, it looks cool. Yeah, it looks like my kind of thing.
Yeah.
Cool.
Excellent, man. Well, this is, I guess, first episode of season 2, kicking things off really well here. I mean, I was so surprised by this.
Yeah, this was a great movie.
Really, really good. Really enjoyed it. And I can't wait to revisit it again and maybe like watching it on a Blu-ray or 4K, because this is a film designed to give your TV and your sound system a workout. I mean, just what they've done to Skarsgård's voice alone, just the effects work of that is amazing. it kind of like fills the room. It comes at you from all directions at once. It's just...
I mean, to what extent do you actually say it's Bill Skarsgård's voice? Because
it's true.
It's
true.
So much with it, you know. It could be anyone.
Yeah, that's right. It's so manipulated. And I love how he's becoming the go-to horror, creepy character. I mean, he's Pennywise the clown, and he was in that movie. What was it? Barbarian? I didn't watch it.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
I haven't seen it, no. But
same, me neither.
I wonder how he feels about being pigeonholed in this typecast.
I bet he's loving it.
I mean, he's probably breaking it in, so I doubt he cares. But
yeah. And let's just see how many more he does, because and also he's so unrecognizable. He's buried under all this prosthetic makeup in this that he does vanish into the role. So it's like, I could never tell. But anyway, excellent performances, great movie. Thank you for doing this, buddy. And
thank you.
I'll see you on the next one.
See you on the next one.
All right. Thank you for listening, everybody. Special thanks to Phoenix Cinema, of course. Our music is by Stefan Krieger. You can find more of his music on stefan-krieger.com. And our episodes are always superbly edited by Noah Anderson. If you like this podcast, please share it, like it, rate it, and subscribe it. And after you've done all that, go and watch a movie at the Phoenix Cinema, and I'll see you there.